Very quick video to show you how I make candy sugar. I will give you the ingredients and the utensils required in a second. So candy sugar, we're going to put it in our turbo cider to give it a nice bit of extra flavour and colour. So let's go and make some candy sugar. Hello, right, candy sugar. Candy sugar uses pretty much sugar. This is 600 grams of sugar, and citric acid. This is citric acid. We're going to use a pinch, so everyone knows what a pinch is. We're also going to add some liquid to that. Now, 100 mils of liquid is required for this, so you can use water because that's a liquid and very easily available. What I will suggest is that you need yourself quite a heavy saucepan, wide surface area, because pretty much all you're doing is getting the sugar, the citric acid in some solution. It will melt, and then you need to evaporate the water off, and as the water evaporates it will then turn into a thick sticky mass, which is what we're after. Now, to control that thick sticky mass we need a thermometer. This is a jam thermometer. I do have another one here which hopefully I can show you a slight close-up. It has, let's get the light right, it has a number of different temperatures on there. Unfortunately it's all in Fahrenheit, but we're not actually after the temperatures because quite happily or clearly they've placed on the side what the particular temperatures are for. As you can see, chips is right at the top, donuts and fish, caramel, crack, small crack, no laughing, hard and soft ball, jam, fruit bottling and junket. Now we're not doing junket, that's right at the bottom's quite cool. We are actually looking for the hard ball and then the small crack and then moving it up to the crack, but be careful when moving it up to the crack because it will burn, and again no laughing. So I will now show you how to do that. A few extra items which I did miss. Over the back here is a spoon. Spoon will be used for turning and breaking down some of the bubbles. As a safety measure I like to have one of these. It's pretty much a large piece of stainless steel in the shape of a spoon with some holes in. If for any reason it all gets really hot, just chuck that in, and obviously that will take a huge amount of the heat away. Now it's just a good tip in anything which is going to boil over, so if you've got potatoes that are boiling over, chuck that in, that will take the sting out of it. So then obviously take it out afterwards once it's gone down. Spoon rest for resting spoons, and this thing here is an upside down bread case which is made of silicone. So once I've finished with the creation of this wonderful stuff, I will tip it in here. Silicone, I believe, can stand up to I think is it 120 degrees or actually 220 degrees before it sort of loses its shape and becomes a bit out of shape. So yeah, probably 220 degrees because ovens go up quite high. 120 would be silly. So basically you tip the melted sugar solution in here, it will set, and then you'll have a nice brick of candy sugar. Now what I've done in the past is pretty much go from the pan straight into the demijohn or into the bucket, because if I put it into the bread case it will then require to be broken up and put back into solution, so I'll have to boil it again. But I just want to show you that stage. So you can miss that bit, but the beauty of this is if you fancy making some candy sugar, you can make slabs of it, wrap it in some greaseproof paper, stick it in your freezer, and it will keep for quite a while. And you know, every now and then if you want to go and make a beer, you've got some in there. Failing that, you can turn this whole process into toffeeing apples, putting this solution over bananas, sticking cocktail sticks in it and having some nice sticky sweets, and well, put a little bit of weight on as well at the same time. But it's nice, it's that time of year. The time of year at the moment is October, so it's harvesting and building up your stocks time, so it's not going to do you any harm, just get you through the winter. If you're a bear and you live in a cage, a cave, that's not necessarily going to be the case because I don't know many bears that make turbo cider. However, someone's bound to prove me wrong. So this is what you need. I did get everything. So 100 ml of water, 600 sugar, a saucepan to boil it up in, a thermometer to keep the temperature, citric acid, a spoon rest for resting spoons, and a case, silicone case, to place the wonderful sticky solution in there. Now remember, because we're dealing with quite high temperatures, don't go sticking your fingers in to taste it. Yeah, it's really very hot, and it will stick to you and burn. It's plastic effectively. When you've got melting plastic, it's like that. One thing I haven't said is that there is a trick where you get some nice cold water. They do say iced water, but I just generally use sort of ambient temperature water. And if you get a spoon every now and then, and you was to get some solution and drop it in, you will see how it, when it hits that cold water, it will form into strands, or it will fall into a ball or a blob. Now that ball or blob may or may not be sort of pliable, tacky. It goes through different stages, so all you're doing is evaporating the moisture away, and the more moisture has been evaporated, the less likely it's going to be tacky and squishy. So there's, I'm sure, videos, information on the internet about the hardball test. So this is what these actually refer to on here, where it says small crack, hardball, soft ball and crack. The crack is when you drop the stuff in there, it will strand, and then when you get it out, it will snap, so it cracks, and that's a stage. So it's not really a guide, other than it's the amount of moisture contained within the solution. So let's go and do that right now. If you did notice any video quality change, that's because I'm using my camera and not that bad application. Right, so let's go and do that. Okay, so we get the 600 grams of sugar, put that in there in a blue pleater style. We take our pinch of citric acid, there we go, pinch, nice large pinch is fine. I'm sure you could probably do a quarter of a teaspoon, that would be sufficient. You just need some acid in there. Now what you do need is not to do what I've just done and put sugar everywhere. In fact, that's not sugar, that's citric acid, so I'll give that a quick wipe over there. Now what I'm going to do is turn the pan up to high, and I'm going to add in my 100 mils of water, and I give it a little bit of a stir. Now this part I think I need to keep on top of, so making sure that everything becomes taken up, so everything's moist, everything's got a bit of a water covering to it. So we'll see, pan's hot. What you'll notice, it will go from an icy looking piece of, well, a bit like Kendal mint cake actually, and then it will eventually go clear. But what I wanted to make sure is that everything is turning and covered in the liquid, so there's no dry patches in there. Once I've got no dry patches in there, I'm happy to turn it down from high, because we're just basically putting a bit of heat in the pan, so the pan gets sort of a good bit of heat. If you put it on low, it's not going to do much, so we'll turn it down, and I've turned mine halfway down. I've got electric, so you'll have to judge. I've turned mine down to number 3. I was on 6, I've gone 3, so that's half of whatever you was. Now you just need to keep an eye on this until such time that it goes clear, and then once it goes clear, you'll see that it starts to evaporate, and that's at that point we just need to do a slow evaporation of the moisture in the pan. What I will say is, when I was making candy sugars for beers, I used to put other ingredients in. I used to put coriander seed. Now this is coriander seed. It gives a nice an orange flavour to the beers. Now I'm not sure if that would work in a Candi Sugar for a turbo cider, but you know, it's something. You know, if you do spiced turbo ciders, you might want to give it a go. I pretty much get the loaf tin, place some coriander in the base of that, and when the Candi Sugar is ready I tip it over. The heat will extract the oils and they'll all get intermingled amongst the Candi Sugar block, so when it comes to using that it will have infused a bit. Alternatively, you could probably put some coriander in your turbo cider, so there's an option. Another option I used to put in, and the reason I used to put this in, because I was trying to make a wheat beer very similar to Hoegaarden, and someone mentioned not only does it have coriander, some chamomile in it, someone mentioned that it's something called grains of paradise. Now, grains of paradise are like a small pepper. It's probably easier if I just quickly show you, making sure we're keeping an eye on the sugar. There we go, grains of paradise. Now, if you bite them, as I'm doing now, they've got a peppery taste, but at the same time, there's like a strange, zesty citrus. It's not a lemon, but it's not pepper. It's really quite a good flavour. Now, that was given to me, someone to say, you know, that's what's inside of a Hoegaarden, give it a try. But I also did exactly the same thing. I placed some grains of paradise in the base of the loaf tin and put it in, albeit it's quite pungent, so I used to break them in a pestle and mortar and put them in. You could probably do the same for the coriander to crack them slightly, but that's not going to make too much difference. Now, just seeing a few small bubbles, and the sugar is just starting to dissolve. So what you want to do is make sure you get all the crystals from around the side. I don't worry about it too much, because eventually, once that becomes a small cauldron of steam and evaporation, everything will drift off the sides. I will show a couple of pictures of my coriander version, and I'll probably stick it in a second. A note on cleaning: when it comes to cleaning these pans, you're probably going to be putting a bit of boiling water back into the saucepan, and I pretty much put some boiling water in, bring it to the boil, put a plate over the top, and then everything within, which has gone up the sides because it will be quite sticky, can melt down into solution, and makes it a lot easier to clean. But that's your choice, but it will set a bit like glue. So as you can see, small bubbles. I will pause the video until we're starting to have the next bubble stage. So we're just dealing with the final crystals which are stuck to the side. It's come to a nice little bubble. It's still on number 3. The sugar's gone clear, almost dissolved. Once that's totally dissolved, I'm going to put my jam thermometer in, just so that I can go all the way around and not worry about any crystals being stuck to the side. So sort of give it a swirl around, making sure that I coat all of those crystals that are stuck to the side, and hopefully they'll dissolve and fall into solution. It also would be a bad idea to time this, so that your next crack at it will understand it a bit better. Now I can pretty much see to the bottom, and it will start to change colour very gently to a slight yellow, and move itself along to syrup. So, nearly there, so I'll pause the video. There you go, a little bit of information from Mr. Marley. Mr. Marley says you've got to take it easy and you've got to take it slow. Whoa, 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 whoa. So, it's clear. I'm going to now put in my jam thermometer. It's not actually the reason why I'm wearing my jam t-shirt today, but it's just I put my hand in and pulled out. Now, the thermometer, well, my big fat head getting in the way, but is currently reading a temperature of not quite equalised out yet, so I'll just let that go for a second. I think if you notice there's a slight yellow tinge coming to the sugar solution now, and as you can probably see there's a few crystals around the side which we could either put a bit of solution up to it to melt that down, but nothing really to panic about. When it gets going there'll be enough moisture floating around to get rid of those. And certainly don't be tempted to dip your finger in to taste it. Now, this is at something called the soft ball and in between hard ball, so it's sitting at 250. Now, as I said, I want to pretty much keep it between the soft and hard ball and then slowly move it up, but it's sitting, as I say, halfway, so we'll just let that go. Slow and low, keep it easy, and it will slowly evaporate the sugars. We don't want to burn it, that's the last thing you want to do. If you burn your sugar, it will get hot and turn into a nice carbon burnt toffee, which isn't really what we're after. Not much good for anything other than, I don't know, might be nice in a ginger cake, but it's probably burnt, so just take your time. You don't have to keep doing this, it's just that I like to know, because you can feel that you can actually feel the crystals, and they're all gone now, so that's good. All you're going to do now is end up, because you've got the solution on your spoon, when you put it in your spoon rest you'll just end up making your spoon stick to your spoon rest. So it's sitting now between hard ball and small crack, so that's about 270 Fahrenheit on this. So, you know, no rush, taking our time. So it's now sitting at the small crack temperature. It has risen a bit. As long as we keep it around the small crack hard ball, so 250, 280 Fahrenheit. Not quite sure that is in centigrade, but we can find that out. But small crack and hard ball is where I need to keep it. If it starts to rise, I'll just knock the power down a little bit so it's not so fierce. You see it's taking on a nice yellow. I told you this would be an exciting video. Now I'm noticing a bit more of a colour change, and I'm watching the temperature and it's rising slightly. So I'm just going to turn it down a level. Because the process itself I think takes about 30 to 40 minutes. And as I say, we're not in any danger of setting light to the house. Any danger is us being stupid. Obviously my pan handle, no laughing, is hanging over the edge. But I'm supervising the kitchen so no one bumps into it, because that's the last thing you want, because this stuff very, very, very hot, very dangerous, and it will cling to you and stick to you. Like nasty molten plastic, so don't, be as safe as you can. It is, yes, only sugar, but not nice. I'm going to pause the video now. I've just given the solution a quick swill, and then you can see the colour. Just want to make sure that the temperature reading is correct, because there isn't much liquid in here. It's pretty much just touching the base, so it could be just pulling it off the heat of the pan. So I appreciate that everything should be radiating through and conducting through, but just to make sure there's no hot spots, give it a turn. At the same time, you can get to see the wonderful colour that is turning. And at the same time, drive off a little bit of the moisture. So a couple of minutes later, it's sitting below the crack and small crack. I would say it's 300 Fahrenheit now. So that's on a number 2, if that helps you with your temperatures. It's been going for about 15 minutes now, and it's going a slightly darker colour, so a little bit of a twizzle. So just make sure that you don't get any hot spots. That's why you want to use a nice heavy pan, so you get even distribution. And if you was to stick your head over it in a safe manner, you could probably smell your citric acid or your lemon juice, if you've decided to go for lemon juice or lime juice. And you'll actually see the consistency is getting slightly thicker, so as it evaporates off, it will become more of a syrup. So you see it has gone quite a different colour now. And that's the problem with sugar, it will go, all of a sudden it would catch. That's why having the thermometer is very handy. Now, if I actually look at the difference in temperature between the crack, which is about 310 degrees, and caramel is about 350. So there is a fair gap, but once it goes from crack up to caramel, you've got to bear in mind that it's going to continue to get hot or continue to cook. So once it hits the caramel, you've pretty much got to say stop, but we're not going that high. We're just trying to keep it between the small crack and crack for as long as we can, or ideally 45 minutes, but it depends. Sometimes you may even need to do it 30 minutes. And again, if you're not actually going to be putting it into a loaf tin and you're going to be putting it straight into your beer, there isn't any reason why you can't just use your nose to say, well, it's a nice colour, it smells nice. There is a point where it goes from smelling syrup to toffee. Now, I don't think you want that syrup taste, because that could be quite cloying in your cider, because you could just put syrup in there. You certainly don't want a treacle in there, but you could just smell it and go, yeah, that's a nice rich toffee apple flavour. That's what I want in my turbo cider. So you can see it has really, the last minute or so, we're still keeping below the crack, which is good. It's being shown slightly lighter on the camera. I'm not sure what the playback is, but that is that's a wonderful thing. A little stir. Incidentally, when I stirred it then, I did feel that there was a few thicker parts, so maybe it was clinging to the sides, because that's the other thing. If it does get toffee-like, it will cling to the sides and it will shield the rest of it, so it will create like a small film or a bowl around the edges. Now, that's, in seconds it's gone even darker, so I'm guessing that's what did happen. There was a few pieces of sugar stuck to the edge. It was getting a little bit more heat than others, so therefore a little bit more colour. And look at that. That's a great colour. But the smell? Now, the smell is slightly, it does smell slightly acrid, but I'm sure everything will be fine because we're doing everything nice and slow. The temperature is at crack. I could show you quickly the dropping into water experiment. Pause the video. Okay, right. I just noticed that the temperature just started to rise, so I've knocked it down to my lowest setting now. So that's not because I'm too worried about it, but I've knocked it down to its lowest setting because I see it was moving up in temperatures. Therefore, we're evaporating the water and there's more heat being held. So I'll just keep my eye on that now. So it's at the lowest setting. It's just ticking over. So if I get what's this? This is a 1/4 teaspoon measure, just for convenience. There we go. Get that, and we get some water, and we drop that in now. You'll see. Just put this on the spoon rest. That's at the bottom, a bit like a worm. So I will tip the water away because it's easier to show you. And I'll pull it out. Now, what we got there is a piece of what we've got. It's like a piece of stained glass, as it were. And it's slightly pliable, so you know you can bend it. Obviously, as it cools, it will be more brittle, but it's not at a break stage. So let's try it. Here's where I lose a filling. It's not bad actually. It's certainly not syrup. So, you know, I might almost decide to end this in a second, but let's just give this a turn, because this is the tricky bit, if there is such a tricky bit in melted sugar. But we're keeping it under the crack temperature. At the same time, more and more moisture is being evaporated, so there will be a colour change, and obviously there will be a reaction for the actual intensity and the different types of flavour. So that's the bit that we need to be judging. So I think if you look, it would be a good idea if you go off to a website and look at Candi Sugar, because they sell Candi Sugar in a number of different grades, you know, like light, medium, dark, and you know, they all have their different additive flavours. So, and I'm pretty sure some of the better sites will explain what flavours they give you, because as much as you think, oh, I don't want it to have a burnt flavour, because you're diluting this, you might not notice the flavour at all. So it's a matter of working out at what point you need to stop. So you see that's just a fantastic colour. And just keeping an eye on temperature. We're on the lowest temperature now, so we're really just keeping it on tick over. And the smell, it's really quite nice. So, and if you had an apple now, I think you could probably quite happily coat your apples in it. Bananas, it's very nice, dipping a banana in there, but don't obviously put it straight in your mouth, because you know, we're dealing with some quite high temperatures here. So I will pause the video and be back shortly. Right, so the syrup is now gone amber red, really sort of, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, on the camera it's slightly lighter, but it's nice amber. So I'll do another water test, as it were. I'll just drop that in there. Now, when I dropped that in there, I actually felt the glass sort of had a crack. So it was cracking, not the actual glass, but the toffee itself. So the toffee is that much more less pliable than previously. You see, it really is a great colour. Again, it's like a deep barley sugar with a tinge of red in it. It's been just coming up to 30 minutes, the process so far. So and the flavour is certainly richer, a lot richer than a syrup. So I'm nearly there. I'll just keep an eye on the temperature. I have noticed that it's actually dropped down a little bit further, but so there's no rush. There's no rush. We're actually trying to make a great colour and a great taste, but at the same time there is a chemical reaction going on in the background, which is changing the properties of the sugar and converting the way the sugar will be able to be taken on by the yeast. The yeast will have one less stage to create carbon dioxide and alcohol by you inverting the sugar. It makes it more easily accessible. So you're not going to leave any residual sweetness from putting this in your ciders. So it certainly won't bring any sweetness, but it will obviously bring some fermentables. And if you're making alcohol, you understand that that's not a bad thing. However, you may not want to have as much sugar in your turbo cider as I'm placing in mine, because this will come fairly strong. Obviously I'll give you the gravity readings when I actually make the turbo cider, but this is obviously in addition to the juice, so it will certainly bump it up and make the fermentables in there, and a quicker, faster fermentation, because at the same time we're using the rosy cider yeast, which is sitting in the jars next to me. Very quickly I could show you, but you can't really see because I shook it up only a couple of minutes ago. Yes, and we're certainly making yeast. That's the bottle, and the flask itself has been happily spinning now since we did the last video, and hopefully there will be enough new yeast in there, and when it goes into the lovely rich environment for it, it will start to multiply some more and get going, because we don't want a lag time. The quicker the yeast gets going, the safer the brew's going to be, and sort of not going to be taken over by wild yeasts and bad, nasty, horrible bacteria, etc. So we need the yeast to get a foothold, so this will help, and obviously a bigger pitch of yeast will be that much better, but we're not making a huge amount. We're only making 12 litres, so we'll see how it goes. It's all a little bit experimental as far as that's concerned, yeast wise, but if it fails, we'll know within a day. We can use our backup measures in the form of yeast in a packet, etc. So I'm going to give this a quick stir. I pry my spoon off of the stir plate. As you hear it crack, look, that's it's pretty much toffee. So let's have a look. Now that is quite a rich colour now, and I can feel it's fairly thick. So I might actually make that decision now, is to stop. It's been half an hour now, so I'm sure the process is completed. Look at that. And what I'm cautious of doing is turn it into caramel. because we're going to add some caramel a bit later anyway, in the form of creme caramel, and not that it's got to be a lot, but all helps. So it's currently sitting at 300, so my back door's wide open. No laughing. Back door's wide open, so there's a little bit of a breeze coming in, and that may be taking the chill off of it. I would have expected it to be fairly constant, but that's the idea, is get it up to the hardball small crack temperature, and then slowly move it up towards the crack and hold it there. You just don't want to race past it, because you think, yeah, heating it up, because it will just continue to go. So slowly catch your monkey, and hopefully this is going to add some great flavours. Now, as I said, you can, if your turbo's all ready to go and you've sterilised everything, your apple juice going, you can put this straight in. Now, because I showed you what happens when you put it into cold water, you end up with a big sticky mass at the base of your fermenter, which isn't any good. So I would advise, if you are going to put this in, I'd put it in with some dilutions of your apple juice. Be very careful. I'm pretty sure if you're going to put cold or ambient temperature apple juice into this mix, you will get a certain amount of frothing and foaming. Do not do that. I would really advise against that. And if you are, I would get to a point where you're just coming to the boil and add a very small amount in at a time, just to dilute it. And then obviously the more the dilution, give it a stir, and just make sure that everything's mixed up. So the thinner this liquid is now, it'll easier it'll go into your turbo cider. I'm going to put it into a tin, a loaf tin, be it a silicone version. I said earlier 220. It's actually 300 degrees, but I'm pretty sure there's something that mentions at 220 degrees it sort of can lose its shape, as much as it will stand temperatures up to 300. You know, you could probably use it as an oven mitt to pull things in and out, but if it was a shaped item, I'm pretty sure when it gets a little bit hotter it loses its form and goes a bit flat. But we're not going to go anywhere near those temperatures, so we're more than happy to stick it in there. When you do stick it in there, obviously put it on something which is going to be heat proof underneath, because the heat will transfer to it. You don't want your wife, girlfriend or other partner saying to you, what's this funny mark on the worktop? So baking sheet, trivet, something to protect it, because it is quite a hot temperature, which is going to be a bit of a shock to whatever's underneath of it. So one last look at this lovely mass, and it is, what colour would I say that is? If there's such thing as a chestnut, red, brown, that's what's going on there. Obviously the thinner it is, but yeah, it's great colour, great smell. I'm going to call it a Doris now. It's been 33 minutes, so that'll do for me. Because I've had it on a low temperature, I'm just going to turn the heat off, and it will bring itself down slowly. So I'll leave the thermometer in until I'm happy that the temperature is coming down, and then I'll wait till it's a little bit cooler, making sure that it's obviously still very fluid, and then I'll tip it into my loaf tin. This stage, obviously, if you wanted to start boiling your apple juice, or bringing your apple juice up to a boil, and then you can start diluting this pan, and then you can start tipping it in, and obviously make sure before you pitch yeast that you've got the right temperatures. You certainly don't want it over 25 degrees, 30 degrees would be probably too high in my book, but cider yeast I think can quite handle 30 degrees, but you don't want to kill any of it off, because you need that yeast to convert that sugar to alcohol. So I'm just going to let this cool, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to watch this video, so I'll stop. So it's been placed into the loaf tin, and I've had an opportunity to test out my Mr. Kipling skills at cake decorating. So There you go. Also you can see it's starting to set now. If you want to have a little play with a stick, that's fine. So you're only going to smash it up with a hammer once it's cool, and dissolve it again in some apple juice when it comes to putting it in. So enjoy, have fun, and be careful. It is still very hot. To the point of it's just starting to be stringy now. So if you're wanting to make your sugar baskets, I'm pretty sure you get an upturned bowl. I think you put a little bit of oil onto it, and then pretty much pick and drizzle this over. You will make yourself a sugar basket, or sugar nest, sorry. So that's how they do it. I'm not going to do that. Saying that, I probably will have a little quick go over an egg cup or something, but there you go. That's Candi Sugar. I'll show you the last stage once it's set and how wonderful it is, and hopefully that will cool fairly quickly so I can show you, because I want to get on and do other things. So there you go, Candi Sugar. So whilst I boil the remains of the sugar off, to clean the pan a little easier, I did have a go at it, but I broke it getting it off. But there you go, that's pretty much what it is. I've got a mouthful of toffee now, so, well, it's not toffee because there's no butter in it, but you want oil in your beer or cider. So there you go, that's what I did. Just want to point out that all of that sugar left in the saucepan, don't just throw it away obviously. Put it in a beaker or leave it in the saucepan until it's cool, and then obviously make sure that it goes into your turbo cider, because it's all fermentables, and the idea is that you put 600 grams of sugar in as you use it. You don't want to be less than using that. As you can see, that's the colour of it with some dilution of water. Obviously it's going to be a lot darker, but the actual sugar itself, but great colour. So there we go, we're just waiting for the block to set, and I'll show you what that's like.